All right, fantasy time. Let's talk about the Dirty South, the ATL. Let's talk about the Falcons. Matt Ryan triggering the offense there. Where do you see him and project him in fantasy this year, Fabs?
I would say round 9, round 10, somewhere in that territory. Now, if you look at Kyle Shanahan's track record with quarterbacks, it hasn't been great. He's only had 2 top 15 quarterbacks in his last 7 years as a coordinator. But during that time, he had Donovan McNabb, who was 34, Rex Grossman, Brian Hoyer, not all that great. Matt Ryan will be a draft value in 2015.
Oh, I think Matt Ryan's going to be a fantastic draft value. He's one of those guys that, for a while, was kind of hanging around as a fringe QB1. I think this year he actually steps up. He moves up a little bit more. I have him as kind of a mid-range QB1 this year.
I just don't. It seems like somebody who you should be more excited about. I just can't muster up the excitement. I can't do it. There's something about it where you just see him and you're like, I guess he's fine. At the end of the year, you look back and you're like, oh, he finished like 7th or whatever amongst quarterbacks and fantasy points. You're like, I don't remember one remarkable game with him. Like, I can't even, like, it's just.
All right, the running back situation there, no Steven Jackson, certainly interesting. Devontae Freeman projected to be the starter, but boy, I really like Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman, what do you think? Marcus Grant?
What he just said about Matt Ryan, that's kind of how I feel about the Falcons' running game. It's like, Tevin Coleman's the guy I'll probably take over Devontae Freeman, but
You didn't like the 2,000 yards for a horrible Indiana team? Come on.
I mean, look, he's probably going to get opportunities. I was on the Jacquizz Rodgers bandwagon for years, and that never really panned out.
That's because we're Pac-10 guys.
Yeah.
Pac-12 now.
Whatever.
I still call it the 10.
Look, I just feel like it's just such a mediocre kind of milquetoast running game. There's nothing about it that excites me.
That's, again, Tevin Coleman. How did he get 2,000 yards? I saw a handful of Indiana games last year, and every time you're like, yeah, whatever. Devontae Freeman, though, when he was at Florida State, I watched him, especially in the national championship, you're like, how is this not translating to the NFL level? And last year, I was really excited about him. I drafted him, and everything was stoked on him, and then all of a sudden, he didn't play until like week 14.
All right, so Julio Jones is certainly a guy that you're going to depend on to be a top 10 wide receiver. Can he crack into the top 5?
He could be number 1. I really like him this year. If you look at wide receivers in Kyle Shanahan's offense playing that X position, you've had Pierre Garçon put up a huge season. Andre Johnson had several huge seasons from a fantasy perspective. So Jones, who's also potentially playing for a contract if he doesn't come to an agreement on an extension, is going to have a lot of motivation. I really think he could end up being the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football.
By the way, don't sleep on Roddy White. His numbers last year were better than you probably remember them. And if he's healthy, he can be productive again this year.
And he'll let you know if he's not playing.
We love that.
Love that.
All right, that's our Atlanta Falcons fantasy preview. Be sure to go online, NFL.com/fantasy, to sign up right now.